On today's episode of the Launchpad podcast, we are talking about the Rockets playing their first game of the Summer League in Las Vegas, the battle for the backup point guard position, and some thoughts on the coaching staff and how they handled the game yesterday. So don't go anywhere. We have a great show for y'all today on the Launchpad podcast.
Houston, Roger, we copy and we're standing by for your TE.
They throw it up. Oh, there goes Jalen Green. Humans can't fly. Rebound picked up by Green, who's back in. Plays it ahead of Moore. Back to Green. Oh, and in time for Thanksgiving. But there's plenty of yams to go around for everyone.
Welcome into another episode of the Launchpad podcast presented by Clutch City Control Room. As always, I'm your host, Don Knock. You can find me on Twitter at Don Knock. You can find the pod at Clutch City CR. If you go into the description there, you can find the YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast links. We want to, again, thank everyone that's left YouTube comments. That's very helpful for us, and we love seeing those and responding to those. As always, you can find my co-host, Paulo Alves, at
Paulo Alves NBA. That's PAULOALVES NBA. On
Perfect. And today we are joined by a good friend of the show, Madison Moore. Madison, tell the people where they can find all of your stuff.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at MadmanLeaks. You can find all my content and videos there and on YouTube.
Perfect. And Madison is just coming off a good Jabari video for to get everyone hyped and primed and ready for Summer League. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, of course, the Summer League game that happened yesterday against the Orlando Magic. We're going to talk a little bit about just our general thoughts. We're going to talk about the backup point guard battle, which has gotten a little contentious on Twitter. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how the coaching staff handled the plays, the rotations, things like that, how they deploy different players, and then just some final thoughts there. So we're going to go ahead and start, like I said, with just some general thoughts on the game last night. Paulo, do you want to start us off?
Sure. I think, first of all, it's a Summer League game, so you're not really making absolute judgment out of a Summer League game. That being said, that there was a lot of stuff wrong, and I know we'll get into the specifics of the coaching staff and how the game was managed. But I think my main message is we drafted a bunch of guys that are really good off the ball, right? They are not really shot creators. There's a reason for that. Summer League is a lot like pickup basketball. There's not a lot of structure depending on the team. There's some teams with more, some teams with less. But because of that, and in specific the way we ran our Summer League team, which was everybody was trying to get their own, and so when it starts off that way, it's a slippery slope from there. It ended up being a lot of guys that are bad at shot creation trying to shot create, and that's why it looked bad offensively for the most part. Jabari Smith touted for his defense and his shooting, not really creating shots, and so that's why Paulo somewhat outshined them. It's because, well, it's just their type of games. And then I think the lives were kind of a little bit more upbeat about Tari Eason and TyTy Washington. I really liked what they had to contribute. I think they were both hustling a lot on defense. I think that they have the tools and the willingness to play defense, and we'll get into the specifics later, but I was really impressed with them on that side of the ball. Then offensively, Tari was trying to do a little bit too much. At times he was trying to ISO and stuff like that, which is, once again, a product of the type of basketball that we were playing. But I was really impressed by TyTy. I think, and I was disappointed that we didn't quite give him the role that I think he should have played, because he was the best point guard on the team, and the other guys that were handling the ball were doing terrible decisions all the time. And so TyTy showed what I expected of him: high IQ, knows how to place himself on the floor, knows how to control the pace of the game. He had a catch and shoot shot. He showcased his really quick shooting form from really deep as well. He showed a little bit of a floater. He showed when since he was playing mostly off the ball, he showed really good capabilities, like off the catch, driving. We saw kick out passes from him as well. It's he just seemed like a really good all around player, which is what I kind of expect of him. I really like his ability to go around screen and everything. But overall, it wasn't a great game, but it wasn't as bad, and it's a summer league game, so you shouldn't be all gloom and doom about it. And so the way I look at it is, if the game, I try not to get too high or too low, since the games matter very little. And so the game didn't go great, but I'm not lower on these prospects because of it. I try to look at specific things that they will actually be asked to do at the NBA level, which, because I think these guys are playing with terrible shot creators around them. When you plug Tari and Jabari into a team that has Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr., and Alperen Sengun, their shot will come a lot easier and they won't have to force things as much. And so I was mostly trying to look at things that can translate that. I love TyTy fighting through the screens. I loved Tari Eason's hustle on the rebounds. He was all over the place. Even rebounds he thought he had no business even contesting for. He was out there. He was getting them. I think he got 13 rebounds. I think I was surprised by Jabari's passing. More of a as a connector role. He wasn't really having the ball in the perimeter and creating for others, but he was making the extra passes when they need to be made, and I like to see that out of him as well, which is kind of a skill that wasn't really tied with him on the scouting report. But just in general, there were flashes to be positive about, which we'll get into more of the specifics later. There was also some really frustrating things, but I think a lot of them are fixed or justified by the context that these guys were playing on.
Yeah, I just want to touch on a few things before then I'll throw it over to Madison. I think the first thing that really needs to be hammered home, which you mentioned, is that this is one summer league game. The point guard play overall, and we'll get into this a little bit more later, was just not that it was not even up to par. It was just very tunnel visioned. There were a lot of times where there was the potential for a ball rotation that just did not happen. People were trying to drive against loaded paints and finish at the rim to varying levels of success. And it's the nature of summer league, where some guys are going to come in and be like, I have to make my name for myself here. This is my only shot. And you kind of have to bake that into the equation a little bit. But, I got in trouble a little bit on Twitter last night, kind of mentioning, this is a little bit of what we thought we were going to see on tape coming into the game, things like that. And, I think the point guard play is a large part of that. And, you have a guy like Jabari Smith. I think a play that was very emblematic of how his night was going to go was when, everyone kind of universally regarded TyTy Washington as the guy that came in with the best eye for, trying to make the right play, trying to, feel the game out and get the ball to the right person on time, on target, and all those things. And, Jabari went to go post up against Paulo Banchero, and TyTy tried to give him the ball, and he, in the post entry pass, and he floated over his head and went past him. Paulo intercepted the pass and took it cross court and threw a pass for guys to make a wing three. And it's just things like that where you have all of these abilities to put Jabari Smith in a position to succeed. Things like that, getting him post touches, getting him touches with the skip pass so he can get his shot off very quickly, with his catch and shoot release. And he was just not put in a position to succeed at all. I think, again, we're going to discuss later coaching staff, point guard play, things of that nature. But, at the end of the day, these guys found out they were going to be in Houston less than 2 weeks ago. So, it's going to come to the territory that they need to have more feel for each other's games. They need to know where they're where they're going to be able to get guys in certain spots. There's been a lot of discussion in recent years about, the dying art of the post-entry pass. And, we're going to have some guys that are able to throw that post-entry pass to Jabari, because that was a very powerful and very, very powerful and very, presence not the right word, but, very high usage, I guess I'll say, part of his game. He has the high release, he has the turnaround, he has, a couple other moves he can really utilize in the mid post, and they weren't able to tap into that pretty much at all. And, the hope was coming into this game, and again, we want to couch this with, it's a summer league game. This is not the NBA finals. It's not the end of the world. But, you came in, you're like, Walker Kessler really clogged the paint for Jabari. That was, problematic. And that's why he wasn't able to get to the rim. That's why he wasn't able to, get certain shots off. He had to take a lot of contested shots. And we really weren't able to see him get that many shots up at all, just because, the things that he's well suited for, they weren't able to put the ball in his hands in the right places. And so for me, I think, this is not a landmark game for Jabari in either direction. The things he's good at, I don't feel like, I am now low on his shooting or low on his defense or anything like that. I'm very confident in the things that we graded him out on tape at, that he's still going to be good at. Like Paulo mentioned, passing and being a passing connector is something that we were very high on him, as a podcast on. And I think that is one thing that did show through last night. But I do want to talk a little bit about Tari Eason, in that, in the second quarter, Paolo Banchero got going a little bit, and they put Tari Eason on him as a way to stop him and prevent him from continuing to get going as they went into halftime. And I've talked about this a little bit more. Jabari Smith has great tangibles, great IQ, great defensive feel, and all that stuff. And I think, using him as the secondary defensive option and using Tari as the primary defensive option, I think that is a lot more of a winning formula than trying to use Jabari as the main defensive stopper. And then you're losing a little bit of him offensively versus, Tari is offensively, he's exclusively a connector. He's someone that's going to attack closeouts, shoot, pull up or a spot up if he has it, maybe shoot a pull up three, which he made 2 of in this game, which I was very pleased with. But, Tari's just so aggressive on defense. He's such good hands, such good anticipation, such good timing. And I think that really shone through in this game. And, a lot of people were, just raving about how Tari looked in this game and, very high on how he played. But I think that was my big takeaway, is that, you have 2 guys that are very good defensively, and you don't have to use Jabari as the main guy. You can use him as, if team try to get a switch in an action, then Jabari can come in and fill that role. But you use Tari as the main guy and, really utilize his aggression, utilize his defensive instincts. And I was very pleased with the way that those 2 worked defensively in that kind of tandem. And the one thing that I was a little bit disappointed about was, I think with 2 wing defenders that are that good, and once we get Garuba back into the mix in summer league, I think he's going to play into this as well. But you want to get out and play in transition a lot, especially with point guard play not being great in this game. You want to really be aggressive defensively, cause turnovers, get out in transition, run, and be able to use your length and your athleticism in transition there. And they only had 7 points in transition off the fast break. So you want to see that a little bit higher. I think, as this team gets more cohesive, I think they'll be able to kind of iron some of that out. But those are my big takeaways without getting too much into the point guard play and the coaching staff stuff. So Madison, we're going to go to you now. How did you think that Josh Christopher did in this game? He's someone that he came in, did very well last year, kind of overperformed his draft stock. And then a lot of people were expecting a lot of good things coming in to summer league. He's really the one guy, Şengün and Jalen, they aren't playing. So Josh Christopher is like the one guy that's like coming back from last year, sophomore campaign, should be looking good. So, how did you see Josh Christopher in this game? And what did you expect from Josh Christopher in this game? Let's start with that.
Right. So what I expected to see from Josh Christopher coming in was really a dominant performance at all levels. I expected him to be the leader of the team, be able to score at will, but also get guys involved. And I wanted to see Josh work on some of the areas that I felt like he needed to improve on, or he could just expound upon as he's growing as a young player. I think we all kind of understand that Josh is a really good scorer and an electric scorer and can do that. And that was definitely on display tonight, right? But I really think Josh Christopher failed in his play tonight. I really think he had a tough game, and it was primary because I don't think he played smart. I don't think he kept his teammates involved, and I don't think he used his great scoring ability and shooting gravity to make other players better. And there were tons of opportunities where Josh Christopher draw 2 and 3 defenders, and he just took tough shots when there was an easy reads for him to make for his teammates. And I think that is a microcosm of the entire game that we seen last night. There's a lot of tunnel vision, and Don, you spoke on that from the guards, the guys who are supposed to be spreading the ball around and moving it, and not just for Jabari, but just for everybody. You know what I mean? And that type of play is contagious, as well as like moving the ball, knowing that you can move the ball and the ball will be moved and will find its way back to you and you'll get a good shot. It's contagious. But what's also contagious is selfish and tunnel vision play. When you're wide open on the perimeter and a guy looks you off to take a contested shot over 3 people, you understand that, hey, next time I touch the ball, I might not get it back, right? And I think that defined the way the Rockets played last night. And it got worse and worse over the course of the game. And one of the reasons TyTy is a big winner tonight is TyTy just made the right play, the simple plays, right? TyTy attacked in space when he needed to attack in space. He took good shots, right? That's why his shooting percentage was good. And he kicked when he needed to kick. He didn't have to do any extensive, flashy highlights. No, you just make the right basketball play, right? And I think it was disappointing that Josh didn't make the right basketball plays consistently throughout the course of the game. And then it became contagious to the other players. It seemed like he expected to dominate Summer League, and he walked out there trying to do so. And I hope Josh understands when he looks over the film is that there are several ways for you to dominate the game, right? And if you took away some of those tough shots that you took, that you missed and passed them, you would have had probably the same amount of points, but an extra 4 or 5 assists, right? And so for me, him, Dacian, and for a lesser extent, Hudgens in the first half, they didn't do a good job of driving and kicking and finding open guys. And that type of play led to the tunnel vision we see kind of spread like a virus throughout the team, as Tari even leaned into it more in the fourth quarter. And that fourth quarter was really, really rough to watch. But there was a lot of bright spots, and I think we'll get into them, more later on in the other segments. But like I said, TyTy was my favorite player tonight, just because he made the simple reads. He did the simple things, and that was something I thought Dacian should have been able to do at a high level, and he just did not. He drove into contact, drew a lot of fouls, but his free throw shooting is pretty rough right now. His jump shooting period is pretty rough right now, and mechanically, I don't like the way his wrist flicks on those jump shots. It's violent and it has no touch. And that's why when the ball hits the rim, it hits the rim like a rock. And you can see that in the free throw shooting, right? That's literally touch. You know what I mean? And so I'm worried about the backup point guard position right now because of those type of things. Dacian's ability to play off ball and really just to make the right reads at the right opportunities. I was really confused about the way he didn't make the right passes, because I know he can. Like he drew 5 and 6 people, and Dacian, I understand that you have a good way to get downhill and finish through contact, but you have to keep as the point guard, you have to keep everybody involved, and that's one of your strengths. You're an amazing passer. Use that strength. And so it was really frustrating to watch that, not get his other guys involved, and just to see that become contagious for the entire group.
Yeah, and just to touch a little bit more on next, that I think it would have been a little bit premature to say this if we were just saying this off of one summer league game, but with Knicks it tracks back. His free throw shooting is not. This is not he had a bad game like last night. No, when he was with the G League last season, he shot 60% from the free throw line. He had 4 attempts, so it wasn't like it was low volume. No, on 4 attempts a game, 4.2 attempts a game, he shot 60% from the free throw line. He was a 40% 3-point shooter, so doesn't match, and it's not a it's not a new thing. It's a recurring issue, and it's a fundamental part of his game. He is a very physical guard who's going to get downhill and draw a lot of contact, and therefore draw a lot of fouls. If you can't hit the free throws, then drawing fouls is useless. And then what you'd want if you
I
can't.
mean, we saw that with Christian Wood last year, right? Like Christian Wood had
Yeah.
a very poor year free throw shooting wise, and he's someone that was a very good rim pressure player. I mean, he was able to get downhill with his handle. He was able to roll or slip, and he can catch a lob, so he's a threat to be a vertical spacer. And if you can't make your free throws, it just delegitimizes that part of your game. And when those things are a critical part of your game, and you can't hit the free throws, it just changes so much. I mean, like that was people complain about James Harden shooting free throws for years while he was in Houston, but as a Rockets fan, you'd watch that and it's like, this guy doesn't have it going from 3. He doesn't have it going, getting to the rim, but finishing over contact or whatever, but he can get to the free throw line, and he can, stabilize the team and, settle things down with getting to the line and making free throws. And when you can't do that, the game becomes more chaotic, because if you go in and you don't think you're going to get a call, you throw up a bad shot, now the other team's running in transition and they get an easy layup, off a slip out or whatever. Or, you get to the free throw line, you miss both free throws, and it feels like a wasted possession. So it just seems like you have, I don't want to say a lineage, but you just have this trend of these Rockets players that can shoot well from 3, and it doesn't translate to free throw shooting. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, and the other thing about Knicks that I realized is he was a very good floor general for the G League Ignite. Now, if that is a product of Coach Abdel Fattah's system and how he got guards to play really well, regardless of the type of guards that they were. JPJ played really well under him. Josh Christopher played really well under him. Knicks played really well under him, and so it was surprising to me to see, like, the one thing I expected out of Knicks. I didn't think he was a guy that was going to blow by his opponent. I don't think he was a threat just as a scoring guard. I always thought that he would be a guy that would need someone else to create an advantage so he could get downhill and use his physicality, because he's a 6'4" or 6'5", 226-pound player, right? And then I thought his shooting's good, so he can space the floor. But the main thing for me was this guy is a really good passer, and we saw him last night. You're running a pick and pop with Jabari Smith. He's clearly the best shooter on your team. You're a point guard, so you know this. And Jabari sets the pick. He pops out to the perimeter, and you're driving the ball against 2 people, and they're clearly right there. And Jabari's gotta be open. You're a point guard. You've been you averaged what? I got it in front of me. You averaged 7.6 assists in the G League with 3 turnovers. You're a good playmaker. How is the ball not making its way to Jabari on the perimeter? Even if you finish or you get fouled, a wide open 3 from Jabari at the college level was like a 60% shot. That's insane. It was really surprising, because it seemed really uncharacteristic of Knicks as a player for this kind of stuff to happen.
Yeah, and I just add one last thing. I mean, that read that you're talking about, that is also how you measure development, right? And so a lot of people think of development in the summer league is how much you score, right? And how much you can produce in that way. But making the correct reads is some of the more advanced things guys need to improve on when they're practicing to go to the next level. And not just with Dacian, but also with Josh using his gravity to help other guys get better. And I'll give you guys an example. Last year, Desmond Bane played in the summer league, and the Memphis Grizzlies asked him to be that point guard. and they wanted him to not only score, but also work on his facilitating ability. That was the next step in his development, right? And I hope the coaching staff and Josh and the guards understand that, just being able to create rim pressure and score and get a shot up is not enough. And that is not the type of development that's going to bode well for you. You know what I mean? Going to the next level. You're not going to play like that at the next level. You're not. You need to work on the things that you're going to be doing at the next level. And that was probably the most disappointing thing for me. It's like, guys, this isn't basketball, and this type of play won't translate, and it's not helping you, get minutes in the future.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to have.
Perfect point to close on for this first segment. So we're going to wrap this first segment here. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the point guard play. And then we teased our third segment earlier. So we'll get into that a little bit later. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back. And continuing to our second segment here on the Launchpad podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about the Rockets pick at 29, TyTy Washington, and how he performed in his first summer league game. TyTy, I think I want to preface this a little bit with, the Kelly Eco report that came out a little bit earlier on in the summer, where he mentioned, the Rockets had, I think Jonathan Fagan mentioned this as well, but the Rockets have, a first round grade on Daishen Nix and what he was able to kind of put on tape last year. And so coming into this draft, a lot of people were like, okay, you have KPJ, you have Nix, and that's your point guard rotation, and it's locked up. And there were a lot of people that wanted to trade down out of, pick 17 or pick 26 and, get some value from that. We don't need to take three guys. It's okay. We'll take two guys and go from there. And, we took two guys with our first two picks that were, again, something that I've craved for a long time is, give me a wing with good length and good athleticism. And of course, I was very pleased getting that archetype twice. But, with the 26th pick, they traded back. They got TyTy Washington, and they got 2 second rounders in addition to that. And, we did our pods after the draft about TyTy and, the things that we thought he was good at and the things that we thought, he may need to add to his game or, expand on a little bit. And the things that we thought he would struggle with, right, were, maybe really quick guards, beating his man, by using just pure straight line athleticism. But, the rest of his game was, very well-rounded, very polished, again, very great game feel, very, very cerebral player. And I think he came out here tonight, or well, I should say last night, and put tons of that on display. You saw he was a 4-to-1 turnover ratio guy in college. He did well handling the ball. His handle looked good against NBA level ball pressure. Well, at least summer league NBA level ball pressure. Shot was going. The release looked quick, like Paulo alluded to earlier. And he was the guy that, as much as everyone really came in with tunnel vision, and, Madison had the great point there that the tunnel vision and the selfish play is very contagious. TyTy was really the one guy that remained insulated from that. And he tried to put other guys in good positions, and he tried to make the right play. And I think, obviously you want that part of the game to be contagious and that to be the part of the game that rubs off on everyone else. But, at least seeing that he was able to, remain, I'm not gonna say like focus on the game plan, but, remain true to who he looked like on tape, true to who he was as a player. And, we mentioned earlier he was the one guy that really tried to get Jabari into the post and feed him that way. Being familiar with your teammates' game is so important, and the spots that they're good in, and not just where you are, like as a floor general. I think there was just so much to take away from TyTy from this game that looked very good. And there were a lot of people that were already saying, maybe we should move TyTy ahead of Nix in the rotation and things like that. And I think those calls are going to get louder because, TyTy just looks like such a smart player, such a player that has such good game feel, poise, and presence on the court. And so, Matt, I'm going to go to you first. What did you see from TyTy? What did you like about what he did tonight? And, has your rotation desires changed after one game, or do you want to see a little bit more? Or, what are you feeling on that aspect?
So my rotation desires had always been TyTy ahead of Daishen, but now it just confirmed, a lot of the stuff that I believed. I was hoping to see, though, I was really eager to see Daishen improve on some of the things that he had weaknesses last year. But TyTy, I think the team looked better in those second units because of TyTy, right? I think it was disappointing that we didn't get to see TyTy have more point guard duties because they actually let Hudgens run the point guard again. But just like in Kentucky, that was a symptom of TyTy's versatility. Hudgens isn't big enough to play a two guard in that supporting role, while TyTy is able to attack closeouts, which he showed today, and score as a two guard. It's just a symptom of how versatile of a player he is. And I thought TyTy made simple. Like if you look at TyTy's stat sheet, you'd be like, "Oh, that's pretty good." But if you watched him play, you understood that the game flowed and looked so much better when he was on the floor. TyTy attacked space much better. There's much more space in the NBA, and TyTy is the type of cerebral player who knows how to manipulate that space. So, so that is one of the more important things when it comes to developing these guys, right? And understanding your strengths when you move on to the next level. So I was really impressed at one of his closeouts. He closed out really hard. He beat the closeout. He made the drive and kick to a wide open Tari in the corner who missed the shot. But those were the type of plays that is like just good basketball decisions, right? And TyTy also recognized that the number 3 pick in the draft wasn't getting many, if any, touches, right? He finished the first half with 4 shots, right? And most of those shots came in the minutes that TyTy was on the court. That's not a coincidence, guys. Jabari tried to post up several times and was looked off. TyTy was the one that gave him the ball in most of those spots, including his elbow isolation where he rose up out of the triple threat and scored, which is one of the things I highlight in my videos, are one of the areas that Jabari is really good at scoring out of, right? And that just comes from being smart and understanding what works and what doesn't work, what's your guy's strength and what's not his strengths, right? And you can tell that TyTy understood those things. And that's what it means to have a floor general on the floor. That to understand, get guys all involved, to understand that we play cohesively. This guy hasn't got a touch in 6 or 7 possessions. We need to get him a touch, right? And so that's why I think there was a big difference for when TyTy was on the floor and then from when he was not on the floor.
Yeah, I think the TyTy problem kind of highlighted something that's been going on with this team for a long time, which is he was able to stand out so much from the other people. First, because of his own merit, but second, because he was the only guy on the floor that had a clue how to run an offense, and we weren't running any offense. And part of that comes to coaching as well. He came on. I don't understand. I guess we'll get into the coaching part. I loved how TyTy did. He was, in my opinion, my favorite player to watch last night. Another thing that I would highlight that I really liked out of him was his ability to navigate screens, which is really important for a guard. His ability to navigate screens and to, even on defense, like to be sharp. And he wasn't afraid. Like he would get switches onto Paulo Banchero, and he wouldn't like hesitate. He was like, okay, this is a switch. I'm giving you all I got, and he got scored on. Make no mistake about it. Paulo overpowered him a lot, but that assertiveness and the fighting through screens and the hustle that he showed on defense was something that I really liked. And in this league, for you to stay in this league, you need to be able to, if you're on a 100% guarantee that you can stay in the league, you need to play defense and shoot threes. He can play defense, he can shoot threes. And he has a lot of other characteristics like his passing, his understanding of the pace of the game, and what it is to be a point guard. But the defense and the shooting being there is already a great start. I would also start him over Knicks. Knicks is a very unique player, right? He could become an NBA level point guard, right? But he's a type of point guard that is a really unique archetype, and unless you are unique, usually in the NBA, unique is only good if you're in the top 10% of players. And TyTy is more of your prototypical prototypical point guard, the floor general type. He can shoot. I think he can pull up better than Knicks can. I think his passing vision, at least from what we saw last night, is better than what Knicks is. He's more versatile in the way that when he's when he does get passes man, or he's attacking the closeout, he's more versatile in the way that he's looking to get everyone involved. He has a floater. He has some really acrobatic finishes that he didn't get a chance to showcase. But that are there. He just struggles to get to the rim. When he gets to the rim, the finishing, he has a lot of craft to it. So I would start him. But the fact that if you ask any scout out there, they would point out to TyTy's fall in the draft, first because of his injury, and second because for a lot of the season, he was playing shooting guard to some random point guard that they had that he was clearly better than. That, like, why is this guy playing shooting guard? He shines brighter when he's playing point guard. And then we coming to the summer league, and he's one of our first round picks, and we're bringing him off the bench. Okay, sure. Okay, you want to see what you got with Knicks? That's fine. But you're bringing him off the bench, and he's playing two guard next to Trevor Hudgens, a Division II scoring guard. Like what? And this ties a little bit into what I want to talk about with the coaching. It's one summer league game. It's not a big deal, but it is another data point to a trend that's been going on since the beginning of even last summer league, where's the hierarchy? Why is our first round pick pure point guard playing shooting guard on the second unit? Especially when we've seen it, and I'm sure our scouts have seen that was one of the things that was a problem with him back in college, that he wasn't used as a point guard a lot of the time when he should have. And he proved today that in the very limited opportunities that he did have, he shined with the ball in his hands. And so it's really weird. It's the fact that we don't run any offense. Like, how hard can it be? And I guess we'll see next game. I don't know how much of summer league coaching is just Rick Higgins, or how much of it's the entire coaching staff, but Rick Higgins is the head, or he's taking care of the day-to-day operations or whatever. How hard could it be that instead of whatever we saw isolation fest that went on last night, how hard would it be to just, okay, let's look at it. What's our best pick and roll point guard? It's TyTy Washington. What's our best rim running big? It's either Tari Eason or I forget his name. It's Eric Holman. I'm pretty sure his name is. He was doing a fine job. How hard can it be to take your best pick and roll point guard, take your best rim running big, and just you only got 2 weeks to prepare? That's fine. These guys played basketball their entire lives. Everybody can play a pick and roll offense. Just run those guys in the pick and roll and make plays off of that. All of this dribble, handoff, swing the ball across the perimeter, 5 out. Like, why? 5 out only works when you've got a guy that can consistently beat his man off the dribble and collapse the defense. You don't quite have that guy. And like, you need a James Harden type for that to work. It's really rare that for that to work. It's just the same problems over and over again. The hierarchy, like Jabari Smith. Jabari Smith is a guy that has limited shot creation, but he does have some shot creation. And so why not just set some plays up so he can come off of screens into 3-point shots? Why not? We know he can create his own shot out of the elbow. Why did he only get 2 shots out of the elbow in a post up or a face up? Why? Like, he got 2 shots and he made one of them. And I know those are tough shots, but that's the offense he can create, and he's good at that type of offense. This is summer league. You very much want to see what he's got. Why did the number 3 overall pick only get this many shots? I know he's more of an off-ball type of guy. You can say we managed to get Garrison Matthews, God knows, like, 8 threes a game during a stretch of the season. Like, this is not. It's just a lot of things that don't make sense, that would seem obvious to the naked eye. Like, the priority of these guys, the priority list, or okay, if you don't have a lot of time, just run simpler offense. Like, these guys can run plays. They are not like basketball noobs to some extent. Like they've been doing this their entire lives. They can run sets. It's not, you don't gotta get too complicated with it, but just start it off with the most simple NBA thing. The first thing I learned about the NBA, a good passing point guard and a tall dude that can run to the rim and set a screen. Can we start with that? I don't understand it.
All right. Do we have any closing thoughts on this, or you think it's a good time to transition to the third segment? Madison, you want to close us out with this segment? You want to react to what Paulo said?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think what Paulo is and what we're talking about is just, common sense. Like we can simplify the offense. Like why are we still going through the same things? We understand that it's summer league, but it also is a trend, right? And we want to give the guys and the coaching staff an opportunity to grow, right? And I think that's what we're going to get into this next segment. Like, what can they grow from? What can the coaching staff do to instill and for us to play better in the next game, right? And how will they identify and open the playbook up for the guys and play the right guys in the right spots, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, all right, that's a great place to leave off. So we're going to take it to a break here. When we come back, we're going to get into all of that and a little bit more. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back. And moving into our final segment here on the Launchpad podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about the Rhyme brothers. I don't know. We'll come up with a better nickname here, but we're going to talk about a little bit about Jabari and Tari, maybe the Blues brothers, because they give everyone else the blues and then their names rhymes. Clamp Bros. I don't know. We'll workshop some of these nicknames. We'll figure it out eventually. But we're talking a little bit about Jabari and Tari Eason. And I mentioned some about Jabari in the first segment, so we're going to let Madison give his thoughts on Jabari here first, and then we'll circle around. So Madison, go ahead.
Yeah. So for me, Jabari, I feel like we already knew Jabari's strengths and limitations on the offensive end, right? And I think the way the game was played was not conducive to Jabari's strengths, right? I mean, Jabari has shot creation, but in certain areas, right? He's not the type of guy you isolate at the top of the key, right? And I think he's a play finisher, and you have to leverage his elite shooting. And Jabari didn't get many opportunities to get good looks at threes, and the teams were playing him as such. I think if the Rockets wanted to, Jabari took 4 shots in the first half, which is unacceptable for our number 3 draft pick. And I think this goes into coaching where and also as your point guard, right? To recognize that, hey, our number 3 pick hasn't gotten a shot, right? And there's some easy things that the coaching staff could have did to scheme him, easy jump shots, pin down screens. The fact that we didn't see not one pin down screen for an elite 3-point shooter is unfathomable to me. Like, I just don't understand how that was not done to get your guy going, especially if he's not getting touches and has not gotten warm yet, right? You want to scheme as a coach. That's how you do. You put your players in positions to succeed, and I just don't think Jabari was put in a position to succeed on offense. And I think when he did get the shots that are conducive for his offense, he had one wide open 3. He knocked it down. He got the ball in that elbow spot where he did his triple threat thing, knocked it down. And I also was very impressed by his attacks. The straight line attacks in space. Jabari flashed that in college, but it wasn't a lot of those opportunities for him at the college level. And that was one of the things that I wanted to see, could Jabari do that at a higher level. And I think he did pretty well. As long as he doesn't get too fancy with the handle, his handle isn't tight enough to get too fancy. And I think we all could see that at times, right? But if he's going quick, rip through, because people have to play up on him because of his jump shot, he could get all the way to the rim and get good looks. Even the shot that Paulo kind of blocked or contested, I thought he got to a good spot. You know what I mean? Like that was a good opportunity for him to score, especially as a
I
young
think
player.
I think if he had gone up and tried to dunk that rather than lay it up, I think he would have either gotten a foul call or made the dunk and sneak it in, so like that. So I think that's something you're gonna learn with time, right? That hey, I'm going up against NBA athleticism now. I can't just think I'm gonna be able to go up soft and have this go in. You need to go up with force, or you need to go up and try to get that foul call. And Jabari, someone who's a very good free throw shooter, so he's not one of the people that I'm worried about. As if this guy gets fouled, he's going to go up there and miss the free throws.
Well,
yeah, exactly. So he's someone
also,
that if he can start getting to the line a lot, that's going to be extremely beneficial for his game.
And also just him filling out. Once his body fills out and he gets you on his hip, he's going to be able to hold you off, right? He's going to be able to hold you off to finish those type of layups. I think Paulo had played really good D. He was with him the whole time, so maybe he didn't have the space to load up to dunk that the way he needed to. But once his frame fills out, he'll be able to bump guys and get them off to get a little bit more space to make those type of layups. But I think he's doing fine right now. I think he took Paulo off the dribble and scored on him. And I also like when he got on the guard, he used when he got to the paint, he kind of turned into a half spin back down and spun back out. And he has one of the things that I noticed about Jabari is when he gets to the paint, he has a good understanding of angles and avoiding the help man. And you'll notice when he dropped against the guard, it was another guard in the paint, and he kind of just sidestepped, laid up around him. And that's an important skill to have in the NBA, because guys are going to always be trying to take charges on him, right? And so I think Jabari offensively was fine. There wasn't a whole lot we can evaluate because of the situation that he was in, but I think he's going to be completely fine. I was completely fine with him offensively. Defensively, I thought I was a little bit disappointed, but not worried, right? I thought he looked a little bit slower than I thought. I'm thinking Jabari coming in, elite defender. That should be something that he should be able to tap into at least 80% day one. And I think he was a little slow laterally. A couple guys kind of beat him with their first step, but not bad. He still was able to recover. And more importantly, I thought he lost his man a couple times. And that's something that he'll work on with film. Silas talked about him in the film room during the broadcast, and I thought that was really interesting, talking about how he approaches film with so much motivation and so much vigor, and I expect him to improve tremendously there. And the last thing I worry about is defense. I think I worry about him in foul trouble. I think guys are going to be able to use crafty moves, especially elite scorers, crafty things to bait him into early fouls, kind of similar to the way Jaren Jackson when he first came into the league. But I think Jabari is a high IQ player, and once he recognizes what guys are doing, he'll be able to adjust and become elite on that side. So yeah, that's my preliminary thoughts about Jabari.
Yeah, I peeped the defense as well. I think not enough people were talking about it, but maybe it was because I think the play I have in mind was at the end of the first quarter, he got blown by Justin James, who's not a quick guy. And I don't know if it was maybe he wasn't expecting it, or maybe he had played the entire first quarter up until then. I don't know if he was tired mentally or physically. But he got blown by, and I was like, what? The thing with Jabari is, and I touched on this on the space earlier, I have higher expectations of him than I have Tari or that I had Tari and Jabari, right? Tari and TyTy. These names, dude. And so I expect them to be better, right, defensively than the other two. And I was a little bit disappointed first because he lost his man a couple of times. I think Paulo Banchero's first three is him overhelping and Paulo relocating, and he leaves him wide open for a three. I do think there were also plays where he was really good at playing that balance between helping and staying on his man. But it's not something that's super worrying. I kind of expected him to be a little bit better. I think he was a little bit jumpy. Maybe he was nervous, but he seemed a little bit out of character compared to when he played at Auburn. Maybe he's settling in, new teammates, everything. I don't really expect it to be a problem. I think the tools are still there. He wasn't slow-footed per se. I think he was just caught off guard a couple of times. I think he was able to shift his feet really well. Still protecting to be a really, really good defender. And then offensively, I was considering that he didn't get to do what he's good at for the most part. I was pleasantly surprised. He made one of those triple threats into a face-up, just rise up and shoot mid-range shots. He had two of those. He made one of them. He from the perimeter face up. He blew by Paulo Banchero and got a layup. I think it was the first bucket he had in the game. He had another one similar to it that got blocked, but I think it's good that he's able to provide some sort of penetration. And I was kind of surprised. I thought that would be something that he would mostly do when attacking kickouts. So it was good to see that he could put the ball on the floor to some extent and get to the basket. And he did finish one of them. The other one was blocked, but still. And then he had a play where he had a mismatch. He was in the corner, and the team could not recognize mismatches whatsoever. And so he came back onto the perimeter. The ball was close to him. Whoever had the ball was kind of lost, and he requested the ball. He took the ball. He powered the guy. He overpowered his defender. He took it baseline, kept his defender on his hip, and finished the layup. So another thing that him being able to punish mismatches is also another thing that I think it's really positive. And so in the game where he was very much put in a position of discomfort and asked to do what he is not supposed to be good at, and still being able to, do the best you can with what you were given. This game was something that was impressive to me. And the other thing that was really impressive to me was after the game, he was asked if he thought that he should have been more involved in the offense. And I don't want to misquote him, so let me actually pull up the clip. He said, "I feel like I could have been more involved, just off of me, crashing the offensive glass, finding more ways to get involved. That's gotta come with me learning the offense and learning a new system." So I like that he pinned his lack of involvement on himself, and the way he looked to involve himself more is stuff that is up to him, like crashing the offensive glass for second chance points and learning the system better. So I love that attitude. Another street for Christian Wood, especially coming off a guy like Christian Wood, who would consistently say, "Oh, I should have been more involved in the offense," and people are like, "What? You're already basically the priority most of the time." So I love that attitude from Jabari. I love his attitude towards learning and towards becoming better. And then transitioning a little bit into Tari. I don't know if anybody else has some more to say about Jabari. Yeah, go ahead, huh?
No, I was going to talk about Tari a little bit. Do you want to take Tari first? Do you want me to talk about it first?
I can go really quick and let you be more.
Okay.
Let you take your time.
All right.
I was really impressed with his defense. I think he is a defender that's always attacking, right? And that leads to sometimes he's too aggressive. He goes for the block. I think a good example is someone was going for a shot and he wanted the block really hard, and so he lunged for the block, and it was a pump fake. He got pump fake, and then he went so hard that he landed on the back of the defender, and the defender obviously just went to the rim and scored. But I think that attitude and that passion to always be on top of on top of the guy you're defending, I really like that. I think it can be toned down depending on who he is defending, and I think that's stuff that can be solved. Especially for a guy, when a guy wants it and has the tools, right? You can usually teach him to become a better defender, and Tari has both of those. I also think he did the best job out of anyone on Paulo, which is surprising because I just described to you somewhat of an erratic defender, and Paulo's really good at punishing those types of defenders because he has so many counters that if you make one wrong moves, he has a lot of counters to counter your mistake, right? It's and so it was somewhat surprising, but I think he did the best job out of anyone on Paulo, and to me that was really, really good because Paulo was firing on all cylinders. And then on offense, he was one of those guys that suffered from there's no creator, and so everybody's being asked to create. His shot, it didn't look awful, but there was some variance to it. He didn't look the same all the time. I think it was curious that he made both of the pull-ups and he missed all of the catch and shoot ones, which it's kind of counter logic. And then I like his physicality attacking the rim, and I think that's partially why I kind of wanted to see him being the roll man on a Tari Eason pick and roll. And then besides that, I think I mentioned this in the first segment. I really like his involvement, crashing the boards. I think he's really active and he has really long arms, 7'2" wingspan. He's really strong. He's 6'8" with a good frame. And he got to a lot of balls I didn't expect him to get to. So that's also another thing. In a team that struggles a lot with rebounding, he'll be a good presence in that way.
So I think for me, the things that kind of stood out about Tari, like we mentioned earlier, they used him on Banchero once Banchero got cooking a little bit. And I do think that, you said he's a little bit of an erratic defender and things like that. And I don't know if I would agree with that. I think, he's a very intelligent defender. And I think, some of the erraticness, is an offshoot of like, you can't give the guy the same looks over and over, because if you keep giving him the same looks, then he's going to learn how to counter that. So if you give the guy different looks and, use different things, when you're guarding him, I think that makes it more difficult. And yes, Paulo is someone that does have, good counters to different things that people try to do defensively. I think, switching up the way you're covering him is something that, is going to be very efficient, when you have to deal with these guys that have, good counter sets like that. And, like I said earlier, his aggression, his hands, how quick his hands are, the way he is able to use his upper body as a defender and, still be someone like, there are guys that they defend a lot with their upper body, but then they don't move their feet well because they're doing too much with the upper body. He's someone that, he moves his feet well. He can, slide laterally and he can still use the upper body very aggressively. And, I'm not saying he's this guy, but, someone that does that same type of thing is Kawhi Leonard, right? Kawhi Leonard shuffles his feet very well, but he also has, the claw hands, and he can reach in there and pry the ball out and, disrupt people's dribble with those things too. So I think for me, that was a positive. Offensively, he had the 2 threes that he made off pull-ups. And, if Tari Eason's hitting pull-up threes for you, that's just icing on top of the cake right there. That's found money. You love to see that. I don't remember too much. Maybe y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember too much of him, attacking closeouts well and finishing at the rim in this game so much. But, on tape, when we watched him, that was something that really stood out. Was he's very physical at the rim. He's able to get into defenders' bodies before they're able to go up and block the shot and, use his strength to do that and use his ability to jump quickly and be quick in small spaces to get to the rim and finish that way. So, I'm excited to see him implement that part of his game in the next game that we have coming up tomorrow. But he had the other play that he got the ball and went in transition, and he had the kind of awkward scoop finish in traffic. And that was another thing that showed a lot on tape is he loves that scoop kind of finger roll finish, and he can make some of those at weird angles. And that's not a shot you want to rely on, but it's something you see it happening. Like, wow, this guy's got some touch. He's got some craft. You like to see it as a guy that's considered really like a pure 3-and-D guy to get that offensive part of his game going. So for me, everything Tari Eason did today was stuff we saw on tape or, stuff that you can extrapolate from what he did on the tape and, showed some development, showed some willingness to try new things with the pull-up threes. And yeah, I was very pleased with this game. I think, again, we were very pleased with this pick at the time. I'm still very pleased with this pick. Like I said, another big, long, rangy wing to lock up guys defensively, rebound well, and, hopefully shoot some threes and score too. So very pleased with this game overall. And I'm going to let Madison finish it out. Oh, you want one more thing, Paulo? Then we'll let Madison.
I just wanted to say he's 21. If he was 19, I'd already be pulling the Kawhi Leonard comparisons. That's just personally.
Yeah, man. Tari, man. Tari had an impressive game. Very, very impressive game. And you can tell Tari's the type of competitor and instinctual player that is kind of contagious, and it drives his play. like sometimes you become so competitive in your situations that you get involved in the game and you become a different level of locked in. And I think Tari has that in him. And I think there were a couple things that I saw at Tari that when he did it, I said, oh, that's going to translate so impressively. One of them was when he got switched on to RJ Hampton early, and his ability to move his feet on a guard that quick. And RJ is an incredible slasher. And he was with him every step of the way. His ability to move his feet on the perimeter is incredible. And that type of versatility with his length and measurements and activity is a recipe for, just a dynamic type of defender that in playoffs is going to be a terror. Like, I'm really excited about Tari, really excited, because there was some pre-draft stuff going around about his IQ, right, and stuff like that. But for me, I always felt maybe we don't have to worry about it too much because his role won't be that big, and I think he's instinctual. He feels out where he's going to be on the court, right? And he switches, and he's so competitive that he's locked into a whole nother level that he understands, like he gets to where he wants to get to.
Yeah.
So,
and I will say real quick, right? Like we mentioned that, like, what you're talking about. We heard the same things we talked about on a previous pod, and when we heard him talk after, at the pre-draft or the post-draft press conference and stuff like that, I was listening to him talk and listening to him describe his game, stuff like that, and I was like, this guy does not sound like, he's not an intelligent basketball player. This guy doesn't sound like he's someone that would perform poorly in workouts. And I think something that happens with the draft, there's a lot of misinformation, stuff that gets put out there. I mean, you can have a player that has one bad workout, for whatever reason, like they flew from Miami to, across the country. It's okay. I'm jet lagged. I have a bad workout. And, that gets out there from one source, and it, kind of like transcends like a lot of the coverage around them. But when you watched him on tape, and like I said, when you heard him talk and when you heard him like speak about ball, like he does not sound like a low intelligence, low field player. He sounds like someone, he knows exactly what's going on the court. He has good instincts, good feeling and stuff like that. And so, if other teams felt that way, that's why he dropped the Rockets, then that is their loss, because he is our guy now. And
I think he's for sure a starter. Like, I think he's for sure like a starter, has to start type guy. And also one of the things I was talking about was RJ, his ability to move and laterally against a guard like that, just explaining his versatility, right? This extremely versatile wing that's going to be able to guard everybody. But also he was posted up. He was fronting a guy, and I don't know if it was a loose ball or an entry pass that was thrown to the guy that was posting him up that he was fronting. But whatever happened, he had to jump and high point it with one hand, and this dude gobbled it up, like gobbled that ball, like he grabbed it. Like I thought that was so impressive, because I could see it. I thought he was just gonna have to tip it to his player or something like that. No, with those huge hands. Like, he grabbed that, and that is the type of stuff when you have a loose ball in the air, you have a rebound that has to be gotten in pressure situations, in late clock situations. Those are the type of plays where it's like, no, this is my ball. It's no tapping this. We not fighting over this. It's mine, right? It's the way that
like PJ Tucker, right? PJ Tucker, like
right,
PJ Tucker. This guy's gonna come up with that ball, like, because I'm gonna will myself into getting it.
He has that. Tucker.
Dwight Howard, another great example.
Dwight Howard used to grab rebounds like that. Where Dwight Howard was just like, bro, you're not getting this rebound. Like, what are you doing, bro? Like, you know what I mean? And so that type of the way he grabbed that ball was reminiscent of that, right? And he just played throughout the game, and he didn't get many touches in the first half, but he affected the game. And there was often times where I was like, why isn't Tari on the floor? Right? Like, I was like, no, I need more Tari right now. You know what I mean? And I thought he played really well. I think offensively he got into some trouble, tunnel vision wise at the end of the game, but which was a symptom of the entire team. So I'm not holding that against him at all, right? But I think in the opportunities, like Don was talking about, attacking closeouts, you didn't see him attack many closeouts, but the opportunities he got to attack space one-on-one, I thought he did really well. And I think you were kind of talking about that play where he attacked the space, and he had a nice pullback counter behind the back dribble where he made the acrobatic layup. Like that type of stuff is going to be available to him when Jalen Green and KPJ kick it to him in the corner. Like those things are going to be available to him when guys are attacking those closeouts. Now he still needs to work on the jump shot. To me, there was one of the jumpers, and I think it was off a TyTy Washington pass. He was wide open in the corner, and when he shot it, his wrist didn't look right. It looked like his mechanics reverted to earlier mechanics. And that is my biggest worry with TyTy is will those mechanics stay consistent over the course of an 82-game season? And that is my biggest worry about him. He did make some pull-up threes, but all of the catch and shoot opportunities he got, and he got a decent amount last night. They didn't really fall for him. Mm-hmm.
He got, I'm pretty sure, like
I thought he was like
7.
Yeah, he
Six,
took
six?
yeah. He was like 2 of 6, right?
Yeah, but some of them he was 2 of 8 and
two of mine says 2 of 9. 2 of 9, and the 2 he made, and the 2 he made were the ones that he shot off the pull up. So he missed.
2 he made were the ones he saw.
And some of them were
there's sometimes, right, like when you're shooting a pull up 3, you're not thinking about it in the way like when you shoot a catch and shoot, you get the ball and you're like, okay, let me make sure I'm hitting my keys, right? Let me make sure my elbow's in, let me make sure my shot path is close to the center of my body and all the things the coach gave me how to do. So I think that may be a function of it. And when you've seen other guys that have come in where they try to, change their form and tweak their form. And even Jalen, to a certain degree last year, right? Like you'd see Jalen shoot these pull-up threes and it would look very smooth and very efficient. And then he tries to shoot the catch and shoot and you could tell he's thinking about it. He's thinking about his hand placement on the ball. He's thinking about where he needs to, have his shot path go. And so I think getting more reps in, again, he just got to the Rockets less than 2 weeks ago, so he's only had that long to work with the coaches. So, more time with the coaches, more reps in the gym. You really dial that muscle memory in. I think, it's going to take, 30,000, 40,000 shots to, make that muscle memory, totally hardwired into his brain. So, him reverting back to the original form on the first game, obviously it's not something we want to see, but, at this point, it's not the end of the world, and you want him to dial that form in. And, we've seen Lonzo Ball, right, go from, shooting on the left side of his face to, now his shot looks good. So, you have to give it time, give him reps, trust in the coaching staff and go from there.
To me, it felt like he was a lot of those catch and shoot shots. It felt like he was like his form was a little bit slow, and it felt like he was rushing some of them up. And so, if that's the case, it's his transitioning shots. I'm not really that worried about it. I think even if you have to remake his shot, we taught KJ Martin how to shoot, and he had never been a shooter or had never shot in his life or been known as a shooter in his life. So we'll figure that out. I think the main thing with TyTy is even if you want him to be a PJ Tucker type player, and he has the attitude and the hustle to be that type of player while being taller with way better measurables. He has a lot of extra stuff that you also like, the finishing at the rim, a little bit of a handle, like more of a handle than Jabari does, for example.
Oh yes, for sure.
So all that extra stuff makes him a really intriguing player, which is why I said I wish he were 19, because if he were 19, I'd be going crazy about his potential.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think his best skill right now offensively is his slashing, right? Like, I think he's going to be able to attack space very well. And that's why if he could just get to 32%, because I think he's going to be the type of defender that is so impactful that if he could just get to 32, 33%, you know what I mean? Like, he's going to warrant being on the floor just because of how impactful he is defensively. And I think he can get there. He just has to put the repetitions in, and I think he's a hard worker. I really do. He's made a lot of progress in that jump shot already, right? But as you can see, he was the only guy that was really getting open threes tonight, right? They didn't give it to nobody else, so I think that was designed, right? And he took a couple of them himself. And I will note that matched with the scouting report, Tari's actually a better shooter, if I can remember correctly, from the top of the key, right? Not from the corners. I don't want to say that definitively, but from what I can remember when evaluating him as a draft prospect, I know a lot of his shots came from the top of the key, and he made a lot of those. And so those are where his pull-up shots came from as well.
I think that that covers most of this. That's we. I mean, this is a pretty in-depth episode. It's one of the more in-depth episodes we've done. Just on a single game. So Madison, obviously, we love your videos, love your insight, love your expertise on these prospects and things like that. But I think that's good for now. I'm sure this game will be combed over a little bit more. Oh, Paulo has one more thing.
We did not talk about 35.
Okay, talk about 35, and then we'll close it down.
He deserves it. He had a great game.
He does deserve it. That's fair. Okay, talk about 35, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up.
Who's 35?
Are we? Wait, we're not. Okay, go.
Okay, so 35 is not Christian Wood anymore. 35 in the G League was a guy named Eric Holman. He was playing the backup center, and he was getting some good blocks. He was playing some good defense, and then he made 2 threes, and everyone was going wild. Everyone was like, "Who's this guy? How's he making threes?" And so I went and I checked who this guy was, and for reference, he had 8, 2, and 2 rebounds and 2 blocks. And a lot of people were complaining that he didn't rebound too well, which I guess is fair. But he was fairly switchable. He was getting blocks at the rim. He was recovering really well. He was shooting threes, right? So I went and looked at who this guy is. Just looked at his college stats, and he averaged, let me pull it up. He averaged 10 points. So he was a 4-year player. He's 24 years old. He turns 25 in 2 or 3 days. So he's not the youngest, right? But he averaged 10 points, 6.5 rebounds, 0.7 steals, and 1.7 blocks throughout his last 2 years in college, when he actually played an important role. And then he shot 52% from the field, 43% from 3. And this is not one of those half an attempt a game type of guys. No, he shot 3 a game, and for a total of 189 attempts through 2 college seasons. So it's decent volume. He's 6'10", he's 225, and and then even more interestingly, and this is where the meme part comes, he played for the Heat in the NBA, and he on a 10-day, and he played for the Spurs. And now those are 2 organizations that are pretty reputable. I mean, the Heat are known for their out of God knows where from guys that they find that end up playing roles. Omar Yurtseven, Gabe Vincent, Duncan Robinson, and Kendrick Nunn, all undrafted guys. So it's a big 6'10" guy that can protect the rim. He's mobile, so he's somewhat switchable. He was shooting deep threes. This was not right at the line. He was shooting deep threes. He shot 40. He's a shooter. If he shot 43% throughout 2 years in college, on good volume, he took 3 threes a game. That's basically what Paulo Banchero took over 1 season. So on a team that was looking for a backup big in free agency, but that didn't quite go for one because roster spots are an issue, and you've got Boban who's going to play some games. We have two-way spots available because Trevelyan Quinn signed with the Sixers, so that one is clear. And then we have Anthony Lamb, who God knows if he's going to stay or not. If he stays, it's surely the last year because he's not G League eligible anymore afterwards. But using one of those on this guy would be intriguing. He's really versatile. He can shoot. He can be a rim running big. He can set screens. He's not a twig like Christian Wood. He's decently built. It's an interesting, for a team that needs a big that might be able to give this guy minutes if Garuba doesn't work out or if Boban gets injured, because we all love Boban, but he's 34 years old and he's never been a big minutes type of guy. He's the guy you sub in for 10 minutes in a game if you need a mismatch for some reason. So I think he plays really well. He'd be interesting. If I were the coaching staff in Summer League, if Garuba's not playing, I would start him at the 5. No more of this Jabari at the 5 nonsense. No, start this guy at the 5, play Jabari at the 4, Eason at the 3, and then play whatever 2 guards. For me, it would be TyTy and Josh Christopher, or TyTy and Nick, depending on if Christopher's playing still or not. But he was out of the guys that nobody knows about, he was the only intriguing one, and I don't know. I think he deserves a shot. He was one bright spot in a otherwise really awful game.
Yeah, and I'd add like that he would instantly for a team that's looking for center depth with like you said the roster crunch and a two-way spot being available. I actually think Hudgens is signed to one of them, but I you have to confirm it. But I think
Yeah. They signed Hudgens to one of the
yeah,
Yeah,
two-way spots. Yeah.
you can
so,
waive those. Like that
no,
doesn't cost
Yeah.
anything.
true. But
It's,
I think he should be a guy that the Rockets are watching very closely how he plays throughout the rest of this summer league. And I think he is a really intriguing prospect because he looked pretty good on the perimeter too defensively, and he'd be instantly the best rim protector on the team, right? And if fans, I think we should all keep an eye on him, moving forward and how he plays in his spot minutes. That rim protection combined with his ability to stretch the floor is a very important skill set in this league. You know what I mean? And so that's a very obtainable role. That's a very obtainable role, and it's easy to do if you have the skill set, and he has that skill set. So I'm going to be watching him very, very closely moving forward, and I hope he gets decent time so we can see, is this stuff real?
He was shooting 6 threes and a half a game in the G League last season. So I mean, that's a lot of shots for a big man, and he was getting 1.7 blocks once again. So
hey, this could be the next in the line of Rafael Stone, low risk, high reward pickups. So
yeah,
I think again we'll watch to see what happens tomorrow on Saturday. There's a lot more to unpack after that game, and there's a lot more that like we hope to see. We've outlined most of it here. So yeah, I think that's a good place to call it. Madison, again, we want to thank you for coming on super short notice. Go ahead and plug all of your stuff.
Yeah, so you guys can find me at Madman Leaks, and you can links to my videos are pinned there. I have a Jabari video that I just dropped this week. If you want to see how Jabari should be used in the summer league and hopefully is used, and moving forward, you can just look at that video. I have a lot of schemes and schematic stuff that could get Jabari some just easy looks. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Definitely check out that video. It is incredible. I absolutely recommend everyone go check that out. We need to pump Madison's YouTube numbers as well. Paulo, tell the people where they can find your stuff.
Yeah, y'all can find me on Twitter at Paulo Alves NBA. That's PAULO ALBES NBA. Everything I do from podcasts like this one to the live shows on Twitter Spaces will find itself linked on there.
You can find the pod at Clutch CDCR. If you go in the description there, you can find the YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast links. We're going to put the video that Madison talked about in the description of this video. So if you are on the YouTube account or from the YouTube, go ahead and check the description there. It'll be in there. You can find me on Twitter at Don Knock. And that's going to do it for us. So until next time, y'all, be safe and go Rockets.